Well, just when you thought life couldn't get any better and you had an audio podcast to listen to every week, now we're going video.
Video, yes.
And global.
As always, it's been a few weeks since we've gone global.
Indeed.
Yeah.
Who have you got for us today?
Well, very, very excited to welcome onto This Week at Windsor, Jessica and Barry Shafer. Jessica and Barry, welcome.
Well, thank you. Good to be with you guys.
Thank you so much.
Jessica and I have a connection.
All right.
We're related. So,
just because you're both American doesn't mean you're related.
Well,
like, I know that's like the stereotypical thing. But...
Well, no,
Yeah.
we are related. We're cousins, and so we have a lot of memories growing up together. I haven't seen each other in a while. I think when did we see you guys last?
It was probably 3 or 4 years ago when you came stateside, as it were, to Chicago for your Wheaton reunion, right?
That's right. This might be breaking news to Ardin because I know you're so plugged into everything that's going on.
Yeah.
Everything that's going on here. But Jessica is actually going to be our featured guest for our Carols program this year.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, and Barry's going to be bringing the message, so it's going to be an awesome time.
And what skill set is she bringing?
I don't know, Jessica. What skill set are you bringing?
Mm-hmm.
Well, I'm bringing my singing voice with me.
Wow.
It's in my luggage really well. So
A star in our midst.
Yeah, we had an opportunity this year. We've been so blessed over the years with a number of people in our church who invest so much time in getting ready, and just felt like this year people needed a bit of a break, and it opened up an opportunity to have Jessica and Barry come out, and it's gonna be a great time. Jessica, you are a international vocalist. How do you title what do you put on your resume, like when you go interview for jobs?
yeah, well, I refer to myself as an international opera singer or an international classical soprano.
Okay.
My 14-year-old self dreamed of being an international opera singer. While I have sung a lot of opera, and that has certainly taken me around the world, I do a lot of classical concert repertoire as well. So that's not necessarily operatic, but that's like Handel's Messiah or Haydn's Creation. I actually interpret a lot of newly written classical music, and that's how I've made most of my career, both opera and concert.
That's your gig. Most people, I think, when they think of opera, they imagine like a woman in like a Viking outfit with like braided hair,
The big horns.
the big horns. But like, please, for the uncultured among us,
namely Ardin.
What attracted you to that? What does it look like to perform in that space? How is that kind of performance maybe different than what some of our pop stars sort of put out there?
Yeah, absolutely. So I think my love for music started when I was very young, even before I even knew what it was. And one of our relatives, our great aunt Catherine, who was Pop-Pop's sister, who had a degree in music from Peabody in Baltimore. She was an organist and a pianist. I think she was visiting and I was singing, and she's like, "Hey, did you know Jessica could sing in tune?" And I think that our family certainly appreciated music, but didn't really know from an educated perspective and as deeply as Aunt Catherine did. So she encouraged the family to start me in some sort of music lessons. So I started piano at 5 and started voice lessons at 9. And around the age of 14, my voice teacher had given me an opera aria as part of the curriculum I was learning through the Music Teachers Association of California. I would go every year and prepare a certain amount of repertoire and sing that repertoire and then add another thing the next year. And at the same time, Mama, our grandmother, brought home a VHS tape of an operetta that she remembered from her childhood from our local library.
We all have one of those.
Does anybody even remember what that is? Those big bricks. In it was featured 2 American opera singers who had made it big in Hollywood singing, and they were playing young opera singers. And I thought to myself, I want to do that. We've been receiving the training, and I had the skill and the ability to pronounce the language as well. And so I decided that that's what I wanted to do. So that's what took me to college for both my undergrad and graduate degrees, and then started doing the apprentice artist thing, and then got my break at Los Angeles Opera. When I went on at the last minute, I was singing in the chorus, but understudying the lead role, and had to go on literally in the last dress rehearsals. And that earned me a position as the soprano at the Los Angeles Opera, the resident resident artist. So I spent 3 years there. So after I kind of graduated from those 3 years, I embarked on a freelance operatic career. So I get hired by opera companies and symphony orchestras around the world to perform with them, to sing opera or concert repertoire. And so I've sung really on some of the greatest stages of the world. The LA Philharmonic has the Disney Hall in Los Angeles, and that's really kind of where I got my start, and also at the Dorothy Chandler Pavilion. And then I've sung at Carnegie Hall in New York City, Royal Albert Hall in London, with the Berlin Philharmonie.
Wow.
And
You're
I
capping it off
actually
with Windsor.
Right,
absolutely.
right.
And no, hey, you might be my
Clinically.
next launching point. So I have been to Australia to sing. I was in Adelaide for a month singing at the festival that happens there. This is probably, I don't know, 15 years ago, singing an opera that I recorded with the Atlanta Symphony, which won 2 of the 3 Grammys it was nominated for. So I went on the road and was able to sing there. But I have yet to sing in Sydney. So I
Yeah.
bet you have an opera house.
So yeah, so it's Windsor, and then the next stop, Sydney Opera House. Yeah.
Now, Barry, we don't want to leave you we don't want to sort of leave you to the side there. You guys are married, obviously. Tell us a bit about your background. What have you spent most of your working life doing?
Yeah. By the way, a quick opera comment. One of the things from a layperson, from an opera standpoint, one of the differences between an operatic voice and say musical theater, it's so precise and so technical. It's like landing something on a pinhead every time, and so that's just something I've kind of just come to appreciate in a big way. So my personal background, I was in ministry, started in youth ministry way back in a galaxy far, far away, and that was really my gateway into ministry. But from that, became real convicted about how kids were biblically illiterate. The church was biblically illiterate. And so from that, I began to write some material that helped kids study scripture on their own and use some inductive tools. And so out of that grew a ministry, Inward, INWORD, inward.org. So that I've been working on that, leading that for
almost 30 years.
Yeah, almost 30 years now, right?
We're not that
but all that too being driven just by helping people engage in scripture. We're now creating content that's more adult based and helping people learn how to study more individually and just have truly engage in scripture in a deeper way. So I've been in and around ministry. I've helped pastor churches. I've just done different leadership aspects and working as a lay elder now with our church, and just been involved in all kinds of little different ministry things at that point, but mainly writing, teaching.
He's currently also a chaplain.
And working as a hospice chaplain, side gig, working as a hospice chaplain. And that came about from several years ago when Jessica and I we're now married and now having kiddos and now having health insurance issues that are beyond our control, And so one of us needed a job with health benefits, and that was me. So I got a position at the hospital, a local hospital, working as a patient rep, and that was interesting, which is basically the complaint department for a hospital.
I'm sure there's none of those there.
Yeah,
and,
right.
He was hired for his pastoral.
I think that is
pastoral experience.
I think that is what got me the job. Complaint management. Pastoral ministry. You wouldn't know anything about that, no, Jonathan. And from that, moved into hospice chaplain work, and that's part-time. And now Inward is part-time as well. So I got 2 full-time, part-time gigs, I guess you might say. Yeah.
Awesome. Just for you, Jess, who would be your heroes in the opera world? Pavarotti comes to mind, but who are the greats as far as you're concerned?
Well, one of the coolest experiences I've had in the opera world is when I was in graduate school. There was a friend of mine from my high school youth group who knew that I wanted to be a singer and knew that I went off to college to study music. And she was at another university who had ties to the Three Tenors concert that was at the Dodger Stadium in Los Angeles. And she called me up and said, I know you love this music and I have an opportunity to be a VIP usher, and I wanted to invite you to come and join us to do that. So I got to sit through the dress rehearsal and listen to Pavarotti sing, Nessun Dorma and Carreras and Domingo to sing their songs. And it was just like, oh my gosh, this is amazing. But I think one of my all-time favorite heroes and someone who has become somewhat of a mentor to me, because I had an opportunity to understudy her a couple times, is Renee Fleming. She is probably the most well-known soprano of our generation.
Sang the national anthem at the Super Bowl 3 or 4 years ago.
Yes,
Yeah.
she did. And that's when Barry and I figured out, the connection between music and sports.
That's the meeting ground right there. That's the
Yeah, but certainly, have a lot of favorites over the years. I've collected some really beautiful voices in my ear to try and, emulate. I mean, everybody's voice is as unique as their own DNA, so, and their own structure, and we are fearfully and wonderfully made in that really unique way. So, but there's certainly some voices that I just gravitate towards because they're so beautiful. And what Barry says, their precision, being able to execute, on such a high level, high art that is like crazy fantastic.
So we've joked about sort of you guys and sort of the high end international touring performing world, and as Barry described it, sort of the layman's world, where we're talking about football games and and whatnot. I happen to know a bit of your backstory, but I wonder if you'd be comfortable sharing a little bit about how you guys came together and maybe God's hand in that. I know it's a big story, but if you don't mind just opening the door and giving us a little bit of a window in, that'd be great.
Yeah, sure. We can tell the short version.
Short version. Should I give the short version? I know. Well, so I have been widowed, and my late wife Dana passed in 2009 of breast cancer, and about a year and a half into widowhood, I got a call from a good friend who's out in LA, who said, "Hey, I have this good friend. She's an opera soprano. How close are you to Cincinnati?" And I'm about an hour from Cincinnati. She said, "Well, she's singing with the Cincinnati Opera. I think you guys would enjoy coffee, maybe dinner." And she insisted this was not a setup. She said, "I just think you guys would enjoy each other." And so I took her up on that. And our little line is we met for supper, so we did meet. And then she's there for the month of June. So we met for June, and then we met for life. So we were married 3 months and 2 days from the day we met, not the day we knew of each other, the day we met.
Oh, wow.
And I say, leave that to the trained professionals. Yeah. Right.
Well, and I think Lois, our friend who connected us, she had emailed me as well and said, "Hey, I have this friend in the Cincinnati area, and I know you would enjoy connecting, but I would really love it if you could offer him some tickets to the opera because I want to make sure he's getting out of the house." She had also been widowed. So I felt like it was her widow ministry, to take care of fellow widows and just understanding their journey and making sure that they were being cared for. And, that's one of the charges, and, take care of the widows and the orphans. Right. And so I think because she had a personal experience with that. And of course, since I felt like God had truly placed her in my life for some really important mentorship, that I was like, of course, whatever, but she still to this day, she says, "Barry, I told you could have coffee with a soprano, not marry her." So she really did not have the intention that we were supposed to be, together for life. She's like, "Why would I let you marry her and move her out of Los Angeles to Ohio?" But, God is funny that way.
Yeah.
And so.
And what's crazy too about that time, in my journey, not only in the journey of breast cancer fighting, but then also loss, there were so many things, what we've called God stamps, those things that happen that are so very unique. The phrase that I determined or that I've used was it's so evident that God's stamp is all over this. And for me in that journey, it was rainbow, it was deer, so many interesting things happening with that. And then when Jessica and I had these, few months of interaction, all these things started showing up as well, including a heart cloud, a true cloud, a true heart in the sky. Yeah. And we got to the point to where I'm like, well, it's a good thing I like you because I think I'm supposed to marry you. Because
It helps.
every pointing that it's like if God's doing these arrows here, yeah. So yeah.
That's why we weren't so concerned with the rapidness of the timing, because we were getting very clear signs that this was it.
I wanted to talk about your faith, Jessica, for a minute, because I think, as someone who was sort of watching your star ascend, at the same time, I was growing closer to the Lord. I kind of looked from afar and I thought, how do you, with such instability, not being in a place, not being sort of locked into even I know you have a home church, but like just traveling all the time, being in a performing circles, and how did God keep your faith intact through that time? And were there any key moments for you where you felt like, yeah, Jesus, you were right there, and you learned to trust him deeply?
Yeah, absolutely. Well, growing up in the church, I was singing all the time there, but I really feel like, and getting to know who Jesus was. And I think that, always have known and that my talent is from the Lord. It's God given and for his purposes. And so I've always felt called to go wherever it is that he has asked me to go to use that gift. And there was certainly a time where I had some reservation about whether I was supposed to do that in the world, like in a secular genre, or if I was supposed to just keep it in the church, but I knew my voice was unique, and I knew that 14-year-old girl who decided she wanted to be an opera singer really was being led in that direction. And actually, it was when I was a sophomore in high school, so a couple years later. I'd switched high schools that year, and we had also switched churches. And the church that we were new to was planning to do a show for their Christmas celebration, and it was actually an opera called Amal and the Night Visitors. And it's about this young boy who was crippled, and he and his mom were very poor, and the wise men, the kings, come to visit him on their way to go see Jesus and the newborn king. And so I thought, wow, this is such a cool opportunity. And I went in audition, not really knowing what I was auditioning for, but I sang a classical piece, and they start looking at me and measuring me and trying to figure out, what are you and I'm like, what are they doing? And I got a call later that week that I had the lead, which is to play Amal, which is normally sung by a boy soprano, before their voice changes. So I got to play the part of Amal, and I got to invite all of my high school friends that I was in choir with. And I had just switched from a private Christian school to a public high school. And I thought, well, this is one of the ways that I can actually share my faith in what I'm doing, because I do believe that I'm called to use this gift for that. There was a time when I was singing at the LA Opera in my resident artist position that I got a call from a college mate of mine who had driven from Los Angeles to Nashville the day after we graduated college to go into contemporary Christian music. And he called me up and he said, Jessica, I've talked to all the guys here. We really want to talk to you about, being the next Sandy Patty. And I'm like, I covered all her tunes in church, in college, and love her. And actually just about a year and a half ago had an opportunity to meet her and sing on the same concert with her. And it was actually very life affirming, because she came up to me after we were in the rehearsal together and she said, you have the most exquisite voice. And I'm so delighted. And I was like, that's even continued affirmation that all the way back then, when my friend thought I could be the next Sandy Patty, I'm like, listen, there's only one Sandy Patty and she's amazing. But I had to say, well, Lord, if you're leading me in that direction, I'm going to still follow through. And I went to Nashville. I recorded a demo. I played it for my two best friends from graduate school. And they're like, that's beautiful. Who is that? I'm like, exact, especially when I'm trying to heal my body. I also had a bout with breast cancer. I did a holistic path to healing with that. And that actually taught me a lot about how to take care of my body from a physical standpoint. As far as taking care of your voice, you just have to be diligent. I just treat myself like a vocal athlete. And just like any football player who is, playing professionally is going to take care of their body, they're going to do the right things so that they can perform at that game to the best of their ability. I really try to do the same. And I cannot stress enough how important that is. And I have to keep stressing it to myself because, life gets really busy and you want to do some of those things. And I have FOMO of going to a concert and screaming. I cannot do that. Or screaming on a roller coaster, or, being in a loud place, to go dancing or something like that. But I feel the weight of that responsibility. I feel like I've been given a gift. And so I really need to make sure that it's in prime performance shape when I'm called on to do that.
Well, we are so excited to have you both. Thank you for joining us today.
One other thing I want to say, Jonathan, we can't wait to be with you guys and with the church. And for me personally, I think I've mentioned this to you, but it's like a bit of a personal pilgrimage, with my family, my grandparents having been church planters in the Sydney area back in the 50s and 60s, and it was one of those situations where their sending organization was the Church of God out of Anderson, and they're sending blessing was, well, you have our blessing, but we have no money to give you. And so they actually did the old sell everything and came. You know, my grandpa, his brother, and then many of our family members would come over the years and just help and do things. And so it'll be neat just to kind of check that area out. That church I think the building's being sold. I don't know where the work is right now, but yeah, but just neat to kind of have that personal connection there at that point as well. So,
Yeah.
can't wait to be with you guys.
Yeah. And Barry did say to me a while back, he said, isn't it interesting that we have so many connections individually that help complete circles in each other's lives? And that's you, Jonathan, being on the other side of the world, where Barry's family has gone before, and then you helping, bring that circle complete, because Barry's never been to Sydney and same.
Cool. All right. Well, thank you so much for joining us this morning or evening for you.
Yeah, very good. Thank you. Good to connect with you guys. Very much.
Thank you. Yeah, we'll see you shortly.
Yeah, it sounds like it's going to be a good carols.
I think it's going to be great. I think people are going to be really, really blessed.
Anything that takes the limelight off you is going to be good for us.
It's going to be great.